An entitled jerk talks down to me as I'm cleaning his table for the restaurant they were eating at, as he called me a phrase that truly insulted me on a deep personal level. But after I demanded that he apologize to me right now, he decided to mock me further, forcing me to escalate in a way that he truly did not expect. And I'm now honestly so glad that I got those guys kicked out. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened last Saturday, and I'm still mentally replaying the interaction, so I decided to write it out to try and move my brain on from it. I'm a 42-year-old male, and I work as a server at a busy neighborhood bar with good food near a major sports arena in a top 3 United States city. A professional hockey game had just ended at around 10 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, and as expected, we got the third rush of the night within 30 minutes of the final whistle. The table nearest the door had opened up, and it being the only available table in the room, combined with the fact that our establishment does not generally need a host, so we don't have one, it was quickly beset upon. Now, as it was still covered in empty glassware and food debris, I rushed to clear it and clean the tabletop to make room for the people that would be sitting there. A group of 4 men in their mid to late 40s who had ordered drinks at the bar stood over as I cleaned it, and I said to them, just give me 1 second to clean this table for you guys. Well, the conversation that followed is the most ludicrously rude interaction I've ever had with a guest in my 29 years of the business. This guest laughed at his buddies and said, "Yeah, clean my table, loser," although he didn't say loser and instead called me the B word. And by B word, I mean the common phrase used for female dog, if you know what I mean. Now, at this point, I was finishing cleaning the table, and I said to him, "Excuse me, do you want to rephrase that?" Well, this guy was still laughing. He looked at me and said, "Yeah, clean my effing table." And then he called me the B word again. Now, I was finished cleaning, and the guest was now seated, so I said to him, "Did you seriously just call me that twice within seconds of meeting me?" This jerk then said, "Yeah, man, it was just a joke." I responded by saying, calling someone that you don't know that name isn't a joke. That's not even remotely funny. The guest tried to say that it was all good, but I said to him, no, it's not all good. Do you want to stay in this bar? Because if you do, I'm going to need an apology out of you. Am I clear? Now, this guy reacted quite strongly. He looked at me and said, "Whoa, are you serious right now?" But I responded and said, "Do I look like I'm joking? You are out of here if I don't get a sincere apology out of you this second." This guy then responded by saying, "Wow, man, I was laughing the whole time. It was clearly a joke. You've got to be effing kidding me." But I said to him, "Well, the joke is that you called the grown man clearing your table the B word in front of all of your buddies not once but twice. Now look me in the eyes and apologize right now." At this point, this guy's leaning forward and is making the most sarcastic beg for forgiveness hands I've ever seen in my life. And then he looked at me and said, "I'm so effing sorry." And you could clearly tell he was mocking me. At this point, I looked over to the friend who was still present and I asked them, "Is this your friend? Do you support this kind of crap?" This guy, who is clearly uncomfortable at this point, says, "Hey, I just met him tonight, but he seems like an okay guy." Now, I'm a fairly new employee who has had some awkward interactions with a very small number of guests that turned out to be longtime regulars. Our regulars, of whom there are hundreds going back 15 years, are extremely protective of this bar, which is an amazingly warm and welcoming neighborhood joint with a truly beautiful family vibe that can sometimes get a bit rambunctious. So you can say I'm a bit on eggshells about my job security, and I let that fear of losing what is an amazing job stop me from just throwing these jerks out myself, for the sole fear that they might have the owners on speed dial and be able to manipulate the facts against me. I went ahead and I reported my interaction to management, stating that I thought I would be able to handle them myself going forward. Well, management promptly ejected them from the building, which I'm grateful for as my superior had my back. These jerks tried to stop me to offer a proper sincere apology, which was obviously way too late by that point. I got over it and I finished the shift, but you know what really sucks? It's days later and I can't help but feel awful for probably appearing to them that I had to go get someone else to kick them out. So to the guys who treated me like that, you absolutely are the worst. If I had worked here for longer than 6 months, I would have been hustling your butt out the door myself without ever having a single thought about it. Wow, this is honestly so unbelievably toxic. These guys had massive guts to sit there and be like, "Yeah, clean my table, you idiot." I mean, what were they thinking? Like, that is so rude. If you were friends with these people, that would be way different. But you literally have only just met them and it's like, okay, this is an awful first impression. So sure, you had to get somebody else to kick them out, but from the sounds of it, it seems like there's a lot of things that you don't know about that restaurant, because it sounds like this is one of those like legacy restaurants and you can't just kick out anyone willy-nilly. Like, for all you know, that could have been like the owner's son and all of his friends or something like that. So truly, I think getting somebody to help you out and being like, "No, these people suck and they have to go," that really was like the best decision, because these guys were absolutely out of line. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/subscribe submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my brother no to co-signing for a car? Because I am genuinely worried he will ruin my credit just like he's ruined his own. Because right now, even after I told him that I wouldn't help him out, he's saying that I'm an awful sibling, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, so I recently reviewed a text message from my older brother simply stating if I had good credit or not. When I replied to him and answered that I do, he then proceeded to ask me to be a co-signer on a car, and this was another Mercedes that he wanted to get. He has wasted so much money on different cars over the years and has put himself into debt because of it, so much so that he had to file for bankruptcy. He has a child now, and his current Mercedes is too small to be a dad car, so he wants to upgrade to another one. Now, as much as I want to be a good sister and try and help him out, I told him no, as his financial track record is concerning. Now, let me tell you, he's got a great job and makes good money. He's in the trades, and I'm a teacher and I make far less money than him, but I'm good with my finances and I still have student loans and everything else. When I told him no, he got aggravated and has been pretty much annoyed with me ever since then, saying it's awful of me to not help him out when I have a good credit score. But the fact of the matter is, I'm scared that he will ruin it. I have my own bills to pay. I need to keep my credit up to par for when I'm ready to buy property, since I've been saving to do so. And when I explained this to him, and the fact that I do have so many other monthly bills that I pay, on top of having to pay off student debt, he still couldn't comprehend my reasoning and sort of just scoffed it off. So seriously, am I the jerk for telling him no for my own financial safety? Because right now I'm honestly incredibly annoyed. No, you're not the jerk here. This is so weird. This guy ruined his credit, so now he's going to anybody with a pulse and he's just like, okay, I need this new Mercedes, please sign this car off. And the fact that he's trying to like guilt trip you and be like, wow, that's really awful that you're not doing this for me. Like, no, of course I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. You've worked hard to build your credit up. And the fact that this guy wants to ruin it, and yes, he is going to ruin it, in my opinion, shows how selfish he really is. So no, you are not the jerk here. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. My entire office has been dealing with a mysterious food thief, as all of our food and leftovers in the company fridge has been constantly going missing every single week. So I decided to get some petty revenge by not only exposing exactly who was stealing everybody else's food, but once caught, this thief ended up quitting just a few months later, as the shame of his crime simply could not be handled. Here's what happened. Okay, so my office has a classic problem: the mysterious food thief. Over a period of a few weeks last year, my food and that of some of my other coworkers had been disappearing from the fridge. I'm not talking about accidental oops, I thought it was mine situations. We're talking whole donuts, sandwiches, and even my leftovers have been vanishing. After losing one too many things, I decided to take matters into my own hands with a harmless but effective petty revenge plan. I bought a jelly-filled donut, the kind that's impossible to resist, but also I doctored it up just a little bit. Using a syringe, I carefully injected it with a good amount of bright blue food coloring. Not enough to alter the taste, but enough to make a statement. After that, I left the baked donut in the fridge and then I waited. Well, sure enough, by the afternoon, the donut was gone, and I didn't have to wait long for the thief to reveal themselves. One of my coworkers showed up to a meeting with a suspiciously blue tongue, stained lips, and a big blue smudge on his hand. He tried to act casual, but the evidence was glaring. Now, the best part is that the whole office noticed. People started whispering, and the culprit eventually tried to play it off as a weird reaction to candy, but nobody bought it when everybody realized he was the thief. Well, the thief then quit after a couple of months because no one would talk to him anymore, and I'm happy to say that even though I didn't have to confront him directly, I now get to finally enjoy my donuts in peace. Oh my gosh, I can't stand people who do this. Seriously, if you have an office and you have some kind of fridge that people put their stuff in, it's rule of thumb that you don't touch anyone else's crap. Like, this is so annoying, it's not even funny. The fact that this guy did this and felt emboldened to do so, in my opinion, says everything you need to know about his character. Like, it is so easy not to steal other people's food. All you have to do is bring your own stuff and then leave it as it is. So truly, I love the way you handle this, and I love the fact that you exposed this guy to everybody in the office. And the fact that he quit all because of the repercussions of this, in my opinion, makes this whole situation even better. Am I the jerk for telling my sister not to even bother coming to my wedding after she said she was offended by the way she wasn't as involved as she would like to be? Because right now I'm honestly still frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm a 24-year-old male and I excluded my 28-year-old sister from my wedding, but not my other sister who's 26, and this honestly has upset my entire family. Now, I'm getting married to a really wonderful man who we will call Max for the sake of the story, and this is all happening in the summer, but my sister will not be in my wedding. Here's exactly what's going on. Now, I have two sisters who we will call Macy and Penny. We grew up close, but with no brothers, I felt excluded. My sisters would go on girls' girls' trips and I wasn't invited. My father isn't in the picture, so mostly my mom would leave me with my grandma. And I think that sisters and brothers are very different, because while Penny and Macy would fight, they would always make up. Penny is a lesbian, and as a gay man, we've bonded more as adults. And overall, I love both my sisters even if the relationships are painful. About 7 years ago, Macy married her fiance, who we will call Michael. Penny was her maid of honor, and Michael asked me to be his groomsman. Her wedding party included our female cousin, but also Penny's partner, who we will call Joanne. Now, Max and I were together, but he was not a part of the wedding. I barely knew Michael, and all of his groomsmen were strangers. I told my sister that I would rather support her on her wedding day, but she said that isn't the way things are done. Now, she was right, but I saw no reason why it needed to be gendered, because I really should have just stood with my family. But she was the bride, so I didn't bother about it again. Now, I was excluded from everything leading up to the wedding. I missed the bridal parties, the dress selection, and I missed the bachelorette activities. Not to mention the fact that on that day, I had to leave my house and get ready at her fiance's hotel because she didn't want any men around while she was getting ready. 2 years later, Penny married Joanne, and of course, Macy was the maid of honor, but I also got to be the bride's man and was with her every step of the way, and partners were excluded on both sides. Before the wedding, Macy kept making snide remarks about how I didn't belong there. There was no bachelor parties, but I think that Macy thought without a groomsman shouldn't be in the wedding. But I was invited to Penny's bachelorette party, much to Macy's chagrin. Now, Max and I are getting married, and we weren't going to have a wedding party, but Max insisted because he's close to his brother, who we will call Marshall. And when I made Penny my maid of honor, Macy was offended. When I told her that she was going to stand with Max and Marshall because my best friend, who we will call Cole, is also going to be in it, she was furious. Macy said she needed to be there for her baby brother's big day, and she felt slighted. But I told her that if I had to stand with strangers, then she had to. Besides, we needed even numbers. Well, my mother took her side when she complained, and even my grandmother called me spiteful. Well, in a fit of rage, I shouted that if Macy had a problem, then she didn't need to show up to my wedding. Now, should I relent and let her stand with me? I feel like this is a total double standard, because when Macy was married, the answer was, well, it's her wedding. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, maybe I love chaos, but trust me, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. It really seems like Macy wants to treat you like garbage and be like, well, it's my wedding, I get to decide who does stuff and who doesn't. But then when that same kind of strategy is brought against her, suddenly this is some kind of massive insult. It's like, seriously, this is so stupid it's not even funny, because Macy started this entire thing. Because if Macy didn't do anything wrong with having her wedding the exact way that she wanted, then guess what? You can claim the same thing. And from the sounds of it, Macy sounds like that one sibling that just honestly is really not that nice. She is clearly at odds with you and treats you way different than Penny. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Macy dug her own grave the second she treated you weirdly, and in my opinion, I think it's about time that you return the favor. An entitled jerk gets on my laptop after I step away to use the bathroom, but when I got back and confronted him, demanding that he get away from my stuff, he claimed that he was just looking for games in my absence. And I'm honestly still blown away by this guy's guts to pull something like that. Here's what happened. So a little over a decade ago, I had frequently gone to this one place to hang out with some friends each week. One time, I brought my personal laptop to do some story writing, and this was an outdated model, so I didn't really have any games on it, which is not a problem. I only used it for writing, emails, and web browsing, and I used my desktop at home for gaming and all this other stuff. Now, at some point, I got up to use the restroom, and when I got back, I saw that there was some guy sitting at my laptop and using it as if he owned it, and this resulted in the following interaction. I look at him and I say, "What do you think you're doing?" This guy looked at me and said, "Oh, I just wanted to play some games." But I responded by saying, "No, get off my laptop." He then looked at me in the most childish way possible and said, "You're supposed to say please." But at this point, I was yelling. I said, "No, that laptop is mine. You cannot use it." He then begrudgingly gets up and steps away, and then actually whines about there not being any games on it. Now, this place was a center for people with autism, and the staff wouldn't let anyone in unless they were registered there. It was a mixed age setting with a group of teenagers and a group of adults, and this guy just so happened to be in the teenagers group. But regardless, I'm glad I came back when I did, because who knows what he could have done to my laptop if I wasn't around. Wow, that is crazy to me. This is like all of my worst nightmares summed up in one situation. You step away to go to the bathroom, you leave your stuff in a spot that you thought nobody's gonna touch, and then suddenly this guy's over there and he's trying to poke around on your laptop. Like, seriously, what's going on right now? This is not normal behavior. And the fact that he's trying to be like, "Oh, you're supposed to say please." It's like, dude, get away from my crap. What are you doing? This doesn't belong to you and I don't want you touching it. So good for you for stepping up and getting this guy away from your property, because what he was trying to do, in my opinion, was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for not siding with my wife when our daughter got hurt by stepping on a Lego? Because right now, I feel that she's being incredibly immature and very self-absorbed. But at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Last night, my daughter was playing with Legos before bedtime in the living room. And this morning, when our daughter woke up, she walked into the living room rug and suddenly began crying out, hopping on one foot. It was still early morning and we were a bit groggy. Our daughter then hopped to her mom looking for comfort. Instead of consoling her, my wife kept insisting that she wasn't hurt, saying that she just tripped on the rug. But our daughter kept saying that she stepped on something, but my wife kept disregarding it. Now, I was quiet about the situation until this point where I stood up for our daughter and said that I think she stepped on something because she was playing with Legos last night and the rug is thick. Well, I looked at our daughter's foot and it was bleeding. So I cleaned it up and I put a band-aid on it. I then put on a funny video of people stepping on Legos to cheer our kid up and show her that it happens to other people too. After this, my wife storms upstairs angrily, and I wait a while to see if she's gonna come back, but she doesn't. I decide to put our daughter in the tub and then go check on my wife. When I check on my wife, I can see that she's brooding and very angry. I asked her what's wrong, but she just denied that anything was wrong. I then asked her why she stormed upstairs if nothing is wrong, and she then proceeded to say that we were ganging up on her. She said I provoked our daughter to go against her, but I told her all I was doing was acknowledging that our daughter was hurt when she was denying it. She then said that I should have never come upstairs and make her angry, but I told her she was acting childish, and the situation was about helping our daughter and not about her. We then began arguing and our daughter was now watching. Noticing this, I shut down the argument and I took our daughter back to the bathroom to continue her bath and to console her. I now feel like I'm in the doghouse for no reason. I understand my wife may feel like it's us against her and probably feels isolated, but I personally feel in this situation, she is being immature and self-absorbed. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, your wife is being super weird. Is she seriously looking at your daughter and trying to be like, well, you didn't actually hurt yourself, you just tripped on the rug. Meanwhile, her foot's bleeding and she's crying. Like, clearly there's something wrong here. Like, why would you not make that connection? And just because you clearly pointed it out and said, oh, it's totally fine, you just stepped on a Lego, and you tried to like make it better, doesn't mean that you're somehow ganging up on your wife. Like, that is such a crazy overreaction. So no, you're definitely not the jerk here. Your wife is being super obnoxious, and in my opinion, that is incredibly annoying. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for telling my dad that I will be putting him in a nursing home and that I hope he passes away there alone and afraid? Because after the way he treated me recently, I'm honestly still incredibly upset and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I came out to my dad and he exploded on me. And it made me bring up all the terrible things that he did to me. And at the end of it, I told him that I put him in a nursing home where I hoped he would pass away alone. Now, you might be wondering, how do we get here? Well, for starters, I'm a 22-year-old female and I've been dating a woman for about 5 years now. Despite my hesitation, I told my father, who's 61 years old, because I still have a semblance of affection for him and I will be buying a ring very soon. Well, he reacted as expected and went on a rant about how terrible my sexuality was and how I was faking it just to piss him off. Now, I'm not here to argue about who I'm attracted to and why, but it came around to the point where I told him I would bring my girlfriend just to try and prove it. But that's when he said something along the lines of, if you show up, I'll beat both of you. To which I said, okay, well, I'll return the favor. He then got really offended, extremely angry as per usual, and went on a rant about how disrespectful I was, and telling me that he deserved my respect as my father. Well, when he said this triggered some very ugly memories for me. I can't quite go into detail, but he's always been an angry person. Scary one moment, then love bombing the next. All of my teenage years, my sister and I put up with him with the hope that he'd change back to my loving childhood father. But after 13 marriages, 12 children, and the only 2 kids he raises are taught to fear him, it clearly didn't work. At this point, I was really tired, so I told him I didn't want him to attend any more of my events, including walking me down the aisle one day. I then told him that he was a terrible person and didn't deserve the love of a child, and that I wish he had left us like the other 10 kids. That I hoped he would pass away sad and alone in a nursing home. My mother then called a couple of times, asking me to apologize because he lost his daughter and he was mourning me, and that I shouldn't have said what I said. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation for all the things that went down? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, normally I would be like, listen, you can try and like make things better, or at least try to see where he's coming from. But for this guy, honestly, I just don't think that's the case. This guy literally said, if you come around here, I'm gonna beat up both of you. And it's like, dude, I'm trying to have some kind of a relationship with you. I'm trying to have some kind of like daughter-father thing going on here. And the second you say you're gonna fight your daughter and her girlfriend, like that's the moment where it's like, okay, this is absolutely not okay. But it's also incredibly ironic that in that same breath, he tries to sit there and be like, well, I'm the father, I need respect. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? What kind of respect are you expecting from anyone around you when you treat your own family like garbage, attacking your kid because they came out to you? Like, I know if I was the dad in this situation, I would be honored to have that kind of information. Because let's be honest, I know it's 2025, but it's still very hard for people to come out. Some parents are not understanding, so it can leave kids of these parents completely terrified that they're going to be rejected. And in this case, that's exactly what happened. So this guy has no right to claim any kind of like respect all because he's your father, if he himself can't even give you the baseline level of respect that's needed to try and claim that he's your father in the first place. So no, you're not the jerk at all. This guy sucks, and the fact that your mom's taking his side also means, in my opinion, that she sucks too, because you did not deserve to be treated that way, and he is absolutely 100% at fault. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.